you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was.
Look again.
It was Brevard County, Florida's turn to be the censorship attack dogs and to perpetuate what looks like a massive government cover-up by violating Americans' right to free speech and the right to interface with their own elected officials. Justin Robert attended the May 21st meeting of the Brevard County Commission to address the 1986 explosion of the Challenger space shuttle. You'll all know, or remember, or have learned, that space shuttle launch happened at the Kennedy Space Center in Brevard County, and which we've been told killed 7 astronauts as the shuttle exploded while trying to break through the atmosphere. But what if it was all a psyop? What if nobody actually died and the astronauts from the Challenger are still alive and well? This disaster, like so many others, was used to rile up Americans and promote patriotism. Bizarrely, it was used to restore Americans' faith in government, even though it was their government that had actually just botched a rocket launch. But what if NASA knew from the very beginning that they couldn't break through the firmament? And what if instead they sent an unmanned rocket into the sky for show? That's a distinct possibility. Because the information that Justin Robert brought to the Brevard County Commission, the information that the commission used police power to stifle, that information indicates that nobody died aboard the Challenger. Justin presented evidence that multiple people that we've been told were Challenger astronauts are actually alive and well today, working in high-paying jobs under the exact same names, looking the exact same as the people that we have been told died on their way into space. But when he brought this to the Brevard County Commission's attention, they shut him down.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I come here asking for your help, but first a little backstory. I think we all remember the Challenger explosion that took place in 1986 that tragically took the lives of all 7 astronauts on board. It launched not too far from where we're standing here today. Well, the interesting thing is, a couple decades later, this thing called the Internet came about, and someone allegedly found almost all of those astronauts alive and well, many using the same exact names. As you can see here, we have Challenger astronaut Judith Resnick and also Judith Resnick, Yale law professor. Michael J. Smith, the pilot of the Challenger astronaut, and also professor at University of Wisconsin, now retired Michael J. Smith. Commander Dick Scobie, who is now president of Cows and Trees. Now, if you'll notice, they all have the exact same faces 30 some odd years later, the same exact name, and they are the same age. Now, we all have a doppelganger out there, right? No big deal. But to have the same face, the same age, and the same exact name is extremely rare. So rare, I could only find one case in the last 120 years. And we're supposed to believe that 3 people from one spaceflight have exact lookalikes that have the same age and same exact names. This, ladies and gentlemen, is beyond statistically impossible. Ms. Resnick was questioned at Yale by a journalist, and she panicked and ran from the camera. Why? Mr. Michael J. Smith was also questioned, and he said, yeah, we look alike, but that's not me. You can see both of these exchanges in a film called Level with Me, and you can be the judge. Mr.
Sir,
Scobie
I'm going to have to stop.
Sir, this is a public comment.
I know what it is, sir. I'm very familiar with the public comment.
Okay.
And part of the public comment is that you're only allowed to address things that we have jurisdiction over. We have no
I have a direct request at the end of this that is in your purview, sir, please. I do. Can we hold the time, please? I have a direct request that...
listen to me.
Okay.
Very carefully. Mr. Richardson, would you give an opinion in regards to this, please?
Yes, public comment is reserved for issues or topics that are under the jurisdiction or control of the County Commission or that are relevant to the business of the County Commission. So if your request at the end is going to explain why that falls into any of this, make that request now before you continue.
Absolutely. So as I was saying, I'll just end it with what I was ending with. But the ask is that Ms. Pritchett, who knows very well about questioning science, whether it be COVID or fluoride, I'm just asking you all to question the science here. Your Goodson and Pritchett, your district covers the Kennedy Space Center. This launched from the Kennedy Space Center. You have the ability to help me in sounding the alarm and asking the federal government for help. If this is contained in your area, I should be able to at least address something that happened here. Don't you agree?
That's not within the jurisdiction or authority of the County Commission.
Thank you very much.
Will you let me finish for at least
No,
10
sir,
seconds?
you're finished. Thank you.
What are these people hiding exactly? I mean, if there's nothing to hide, why are they calling in their speech police to shut down constitutionally protected speech? Look, the Challenger story, the official narrative, is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, let's just be bare naked honest here. Our government wants us to believe that they found these people's remains on the ocean floor 2 months after they exploded in a fiery death spiral on their way into space. The truth of the matter is this. That's especially about space. It's widely accepted at this point that the moon landing was fake. Huge portions of the U.S. population see the moon landing as Cold War propaganda because that's exactly what it was. It was done on a green screen. There were cables visible in the background. It's never been a believable story. The moon landing was effectively a poorly produced film, and people have been pointing that out since 1969, so why would the Challenger be any different? The burden of proof at this point is and always should be on our fake government. If citizens have questions, they should be answered. And anytime the government goons are turned loose on people who are asking questions, everyone else should start asking those very same questions because there's obviously something there. We wanted to talk more about this with Justin Robert himself, and he's here with us now to that end. They just shut you down. And it goes on, by the way. I mean, there's a longer version of that. But nope, this is not under the jurisdiction of the county commission. To that you say what?
Yeah, it surprised me, but at the same time, it didn't, because this is what I'm used to with these county meetings. They just shut you down. They make up the rules as they go. And you could see it was an uncomfortable topic for him. So he wanted to just throw me out of there. This guy has a track record of throwing people out from what I'm learning now. So it wasn't supposed to be about him. It's supposed to be about the subject matter, but the subject matter was so triggering that now there's people reporting on this as this kind of like this tyrannical chairman throwing people out of a public meeting. And for what? You could have let me finish. I had 1 more minute. You only get 3 minutes up there. You know, you're looking at me going to a place where I have no recourse. NASA blocked me. Congressmen and senators won't talk to you about it. So where are you supposed to go? I have the county where I can go give my public comment for 3 simple minutes. You let me talk for 2, and I was about to get into my specific ask for them, just to ask for their help. And he couldn't even let me finish. So I was shocked to see him do it. But we did finish outside, thankfully, and got at least our message out there in one complete video.
Well, let's get your message out right now. What is it that you want to do about this? If you were to ask the federal government to petition or redress your grievances, what would you ask that the federal government does?
Well, I hope that it's the correct route, but since no one will talk to me, I guess we can start with asking the Senate Subcommittee on Space Science, which is headed up by a handful of congressmen and senators, to have a hearing or open a new investigation into this disaster and bring this all to light again. Like I mentioned in my speech, if you really just set your emotions to the side and try to reason with yourself that there's 3 exact lookalikes with the same names, for someone on one space flight, 3 people, and there's more than that. We could talk about the identical twins or the other individual, but those 3 alone are beyond statistically impossible. So that should be enough to raise the inquiry. So I would hope that would happen. It doesn't seem realistic. So the more realistic thing is people need to go out and do exactly what I'm doing. Let's create copycats. Everyone start holding your local officials accountable and say, hey, you need to help me hold the people above you accountable because they won't listen to us. And we can be such a pain in their butt that they literally can't go to a public meeting or get out of their car without someone in the public demanding that they do something about these fake atrocities.
What do you think actually happened to the Challenger, the real story there?
You know, I don't know. I don't really like to speculate too much, but my gut tells me that you know, like probably Neil and the rest of the folks that didn't go to the moon, they were probably told at a pretty late date that, hey, this isn't going down for XYZ. Maybe they were trying to show the public that it was impossible or that they needed more money. it's hard to get into the motive, but it seems like in 1986, no one dreamed of something called the internet coming about, where you could search people and find their profession and their name. So you have people that probably said, "Listen, I don't want to go through with this. Can I keep my same name and at least have a public life?" And they said, "Sure." But in 1986, you couldn't fathom in 2010 being able to literally look up all this detailed information about people's lives.
That's a pretty good point,
and
actually.
Internet Sleuth found 6 of 7 of them.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and launch this thing, but it'll be unmanned. It's not going to go down because we've got this leak or that thing going on, right?
Right.
So we don't want to put you at risk. There were normal people aboard this. You had a teacher, which is why everybody watched it in their classrooms. I believe that I was in Mr. Eichhorn's 3rd grade class at Cahill Elementary in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Yep. And everything stopped. Everybody in every classroom, every student across America stopped what they were doing, and on the big, huge box screen TV that they rolled in on these big carts, everybody was enamored by this. Nobody, of course, expected for all of those students to be. I mean, I remember kids had to go to the freaking social worker because they were traumatized because they just watched this teacher blow up. Because in the time leading up to this launch, we were watching updates on the training of these guest astronauts, I guess is what you would call them, right? Guest astronaut. Here, do you want to fly into space? You're a school teacher. You're qualified. Let's fly into space on a shuttle. Come on. I mean, even that just sounds completely ridiculous on its face. But so we're going to send all of these unqualified space travelers into space. No, it's not going to work for this reason. But in that training, it was interesting because they were showing that the astronauts were like experiencing weightlessness, or the defiance of gravity, which, by the way, we see defied every day. You just have to look around. In a pool, right? They were in water to experience this. Well, what do many speculate that space actually, all of these space exploration videos that we see, these CGI computer-generated images and animated AI we're speculating that could potentially just be being done underwater. I mean, look at the bubbles. I mean, it's very obvious. There's been... Go ahead.
And some people will say, well, I watched it just for clarification. I know some people are thinking, well, I watched it happen. What are you telling me? It blew up empty? I'm like, well, yes. There's actually a Discovery Channel segment where they show that in an event of an emergency, the astronauts can jump down this chute. It's like a slide that goes down into a bunker, a total safe room. So if anything were to blow up, they could all go down there at the very last second. There's no way that any of us could know if they were to jump into that thing and not get on the actual craft. So for those people that say, well, I watched it blow up, there's your explanation. I mean, that's very simple.
Yeah, because we saw the celebratory, all of them getting on and, waving and all of this stuff. I didn't know about the slide. See, there you go. I didn't watch the Discovery Channel stuff.
And if you watch closely, one of the astronauts' parents are there for the launch. And when it explodes, CNN camera actually pans to the parents and zooms in on them. And while other people look hysterical, the actual parents look kind of confused, and the dad actually starts to snicker. And it's some very strange behavior. You'd think that hands would be over their mouth and looking around and freaking out, but they're not freaking out like the innocent regular people. The family members almost seem like they've got a bit of an awkward setting in because, oh my gosh, we're really going through with this type of thing.
Let me propose a set of scenarios here for dads out there. You'll understand what I'm talking about. When you're out and you're teaching your little son or your little daughter how to ride a bike, right? They're getting off of training wheels, or in the case of my kids, we use those little striders, so we never had to do the training wheel thing because it teaches them balance, and it worked out great. My kids learned how to ride a bike very early. When you're watching your little daughter out in the street, she's riding her bike, when she starts to lose control and you panic because your little daughter is about to get hurt, and you know it because the pavement is hard and she is a little girl. That's kind of like a moment in and of itself. Now imagine your kid is a little bit older, maybe 9, 10, and riding a dirt bike and going off of jumps, and you see your kid crash. Protective equipment or not, that's an even more significant, oh my God moment, because did he break his neck? Is he dead? Is he breathing? Is there motion? How about when your baby, sleeps in a little bit late for the first time? as a dad. You're getting up and you're freaking out like, oh my God, is he breathing? Is she breathing?
Right.
Okay. What about your kid gets hit by a truck? I mean, these are more escalating of I could have lost my child moments. When you watch your child get onto a space shuttle and literally the thing blows into smithereens and explodes, that has to be one of the most moments you could go through as a parent. And this guy was snickering almost. I mean, if that's not...
Watch the,
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure you can watch it in Hibbler's film, Level With Me. I'm pretty sure they show it in there. Dave Weiss talks about it. It's just not normal behavior. And even if you want to explain that away, you can take her and set them over on the side. You can't have the 3 exact lookalikes. It doesn't work. The one guy that I found in the case I mentioned in my speech was from like 120 years ago, and he allegedly led to the introduction of fingerprinting. I mean, if there was another case of this, it would be the biggest story. They would say, oh my gosh, we found another case of someone that looks exactly like someone with the same name. It's never been reported on. I even tried to contact doppelganger experts, people who paint doppelgangers for a living. There's never a story where they're like, and there's this one crazy case where we found 2 people that looked alike that had the same names.
And were the same age.
Same age, too. You'd think 10 years apart, maybe they could find someone with the same, but having all those factors, and then the Dick Scobie guy making the Cows and Trees website with the spiraling cow strapped to a rocket. I mean, your lookalike has a company with a cow strapped to a rocket that leaves a smoke trail, just like the explosion. You can't make it up if you tried,
They have these libraries and stuff all over the place as well. Schools that are named after these astronauts that were supposedly supposed to hail as heroes, even though allegedly they screwed up so bad and they blew up. I know that Elon Musk was looking at least a while ago on X to sell his company rather cheap because it seems that he's having a hard time penetrating the firmament himself. I tweeted something, I think he quote tweeted it. Does anybody want to buy SpaceX cheap? It seems I can't penetrate the firmament after I saw this rocket launching, which I see a lot at my second home in Florida. We're on the Space Coast. I see rockets launching constantly, and I'm always seeing them blow up. They're always blowing up. Or they just they never go straight up. They always kind of do this thing, and then they appear to go into the ocean. So I think you question everything, and great job doing that. We need more copycats, just like Justin Robert here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
On January 28, 1986, CNN watched the Challenger launch live on the air with its viewers. They and the other media outlets told you that the astronauts died in the explosion. But as always, there is an agenda behind every mainstream headline.
This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Looks like a couple of the solid rocket boosters blew away from the side of the shuttle in an explosion.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded.
Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country. This is truly a national loss.
The 7 NASA astronauts supposedly killed in the 1986 Challenger disaster did not die in the explosion and are quietly living out their lives in the US, with many of them hiding in plain sight, using their same names and working at high levels in the same fields they worked in before the disaster, according to explosive evidence uncovered by investigators.
We've located 6 out of 7 of them. In the world of deception, it's really easy to say this person is that person, and there's a lot of that going on, muddying the waters. But 6 out of 7 have identical names. They work for universities, most of them.
There were no people in the Challenger. That was a hoax. That's been proven conclusively. by researchers and reporters, investigators, who have found that those supposed people that were in the Challenger are still alive today.
We remember Dick Scobie, the commander who spoke the last words we heard from the Space Shuttle Challenger. We remember Michael Smith. We remember Judith Resnick. We remember Krista McAuliffe. We remember Ellison Onizuka. We remember Ronald McNair.
People still think the Challenger exploded with these astronauts. It was a horrible thing. Never happened. Yes, the rocket exploded. There was no one on board.
So imagine you're at the launch of the Challenger. This is a historic moment, and it blows up in midair. Whether you are personally related to somebody on there or don't know anybody, you're going to be a mess. This is an emotional, incredible scene. And CNN was reporting, and they told the cameraman, let's get a live shot of Krista's parents. And when they zoomed in on them, they were giggling, they were laughing, they were smiling. I don't know how you can put a smile on someone's face, even if you told them the funniest joke in the world at that very moment. Just look at their face. Is that the face of somebody whose daughter just blew up in the most horrific, violent accident ever? Or is that somebody playing a role, not knowing that they're on camera and thinking about the money that they may have gotten? You can hide somebody that's allegedly dead right in plain sight. All you have to do is move them a little farther away, give them a different job, claim that they're somebody else. You don't even need to change their name.
So statistically speaking, the odds that almost everyone on the Challenger have exact lookalikes with exact names still existing is kind of laughable, honestly. Exact doppelgangers existing in the world with the same names, and when confronted, they get very nervous and their stories begin to conflict and they have the same mannerisms. You know, it doesn't take a lot to put it together, honestly.
Let's start with former NASA astronaut Michael J. Smith, with the same name as this retired professor from the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Are you Michael Smith?
Yeah.
Professor at university?
Retired.
Retired?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just stopped by because there's this room. Are you aware of that? There's a rumor on the internet.
It's not me.
That people are saying.
Yeah, it's not me, obviously. I mean, anybody that looks at my background, looks where I was born, it's not me. I mean, it's interesting that the Michael J. Smith that was the astronaut looks something like me when we were younger, but really not if you really look at facial recognition.
You never been a pilot, never been in the military?
Nothing like that.
Huh.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
And I don't respond to the emails I get. I get probably an email, maybe 2 a month.
Really?
Yeah, and I got one guy that's been really hounding me, and I turned it over to the FBI.
Okay. Yeah, you just sure look alike. It's the same name.
I know the facial thing, but that's what we looked like, what, 40 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Michael J. Smith, identical looks, dimples the same, teeth the same. There's really no denying it. And before he could finish the question, Michael denied it. Oh, that's not me, you know, and laughed it off. What's he going to say? Oh, you got me? Not going to happen.
The driveway footage of Michael J. Smith, that's real. I mean, that can't be a deep fake, you know. So at some point, you got to stop trusting liars.
We don't hide our space program. We don't keep secrets and cover things up. We do it all up front and in public.
Next is former NASA astronaut Judith Resnick with an exact doppelganger working at Yale University. 37 years have passed and she hasn't even changed her name. Side by side, there's no denying it. When she's approached, she has a very odd way of not responding.
Hey, Judy? Judy. How you doing? I'm from the press. I just had a quick question, if you don't mind.
What press? I'm
from a radio station in San Bernardino. I know there's a conspiracy about the space shuttle. No, I want to be polite. Friendly. Just a question. So there's a lot of rumors about you being on that space shuttle. Obviously, you know, if you want to comment, we would really appreciate it.
Kind of odd that Judith is in full panic mode when realizing the press is in her presence. She's no stranger to being in the spotlight. She even made her way into Hollywood for a quick cameo.
If the choice is to allow Americans to be taken as hostages or to be executed, I'll bring my own rope. Saddam backed down, and Ambassador Wilson helped thousands get safely home. When he himself came home to the United States, he was warmly greeted by our president, who took him to the Oval Office and introduced him to the War Cabinet as an American hero.
Commander Dick Scobie had a company called Cows and Trees, and when you went to his website, there was an animation of a cow taking off like a rocket with a smoke stream coming out of its backside, doing a twisty curl in the air that looked remarkably just like what we saw with the Challenger. And after we started making videos on that and it started going viral, that website disappeared, never to be seen again.
And nobody could have predicted back in 1986 that in 30 some odd years from then that there would be something called the internet that would bring all this information to the tip of your fingers, and you'd be able to search through pictures, Facebooks, websites, profiles. Now these people are scared. They're hiding their profiles, they're deleting their websites, they're making their Facebooks private.
Onizuka and McNair are always together. They're hanging out at NASA and always talking about themselves.
Ellison Onizuka, if you look at clips of him back in 1986 when this happened, he actually spoke like, every other word was,
Let me say that it's really a pleasure to be back.
If you look at clips of his brother, Claude, now speaking, it's the same exact thing. Every other word is,
But Ellison's dream is continued to be carried on.
I think we got some...
we're very fortunate that
I think we're ready to go fly. Thanks for being out here today.
His brother just so happens to be the spokesperson for the Challenger tragedy. Why aren't there any pictures of his brother back when this happened? Why didn't his brother speak at the funeral? Use your head.
Former Governor Ariyoshi, who has a story about a picture that survived the Challenger disaster.
Ellison Onizuka came to see me one day, and he wanted a family photo. And he wanted to take it up on a Challenger, and he's going to bring it back, inscribe it, and autograph it. But that Challenger accident happened, and I felt very sorry to lose Ellison. But I didn't even think about the photo. I thought everything else must have been destroyed completely. About 2 months later, Lorna Onizuka called me and told me that they found in the water, NASA found the personal preference kit of Ellison Onizuka. And she said there were 2 things in there. One was a monk's prayer, and the other was his family portrait. So I told her, oh, then it must be in terrible condition because the astronauts, the big bang up and the ocean in the water for 2 months. She told me, no, it's in perfect condition. I said, I'm going to bring the picture over to you and present it to you. And then in the meantime, NASA got the picture and they put this together for us.
Ronald McNair conveniently has a twin brother named Carl McNair who looks exactly like him and is at a lot of the events now, but was nowhere to be found when the explosion happened.
Krista McAuliffe was a fairly new teacher, just 3 years at that school. To get her story planted, all of these people, the parents, the astronauts, everyone involved that you saw, are crisis actors.
Essie was at the Cape in the stands to see Tuesday's launch, a sight that she says still haunts her.
Why didn't I leave too? But I thought, no, I want to stay and see it.
And as she read Mike's invitation for the launch, Miss Hesse said that she doesn't know if she'll be emotionally ready for a service like that in his hometown.
Since I won't be able to see you all in person, let me say thanks for coming and have a great time. And I hope you see a good show.
George Bush Sr. hand-selected the teacher, Krista McAuliffe. What are the odds that 30 years later, there is a professor at Syracuse University with the name Sharon McAuliffe?
I still can't believe that I'm going to actually be going into that shuttle. It just really doesn't seem possible.
Krista McAuliffe was asked if she had any fears about her space shuttle flight.
People really feel that space travel is safe now. It's not that earlier feeling that, oh, it's going to blow up or something's going to happen. Right at this point, I feel that I'll be okay if I go up.
Well, where's Jarvis? How come you haven't located him? And the answer is, he could have died of natural causes, a heart attack, car accident, 3, 4, 5 years later, and it would never be reported.
The reason they did it was a psychological operation to justify not doing manned space flights anymore and to pull on your heartstrings with an emotional cover. So if you dare question it, then you're immoral. And then when you look into it, you find out, of course, that you have all these people still existing in the world. So basically a government version of witness protection for NASA.
Our nation held a vigil by our television sets. In one cruel moment, our exhilaration turned to horror. We waited and watched.
They were waiting and watching. When they saw the explosion, there was confusion. Was something wrong? The principal and teachers weren't certain either. Then it got very quiet as the horror of it began to register.
Besides the trauma-based mind control and putting children through that trauma, it reinforces their model. It reinforces their religion. Look, this terrible thing happened. We're trying to go to space. We're trying to explore for science. But look, all those people died.
But at 1 o'clock, school was closed. It had to close.
I felt as if my whole body blew up inside when I saw that. And I can just never be as shocked as I am now.
Seeing it with my own eyes, it really just scared me.
Some astronauts blow up in a rocket. What does that do subconsciously to the average person? They don't want to go up into space. They don't want to blow up in a rocket. We'll leave that to the professionals. We'll leave that to NASA or government.
Once they had seen the evidence on the visual screen that there would be no survivors, it suddenly became apparent to them that they were dealing with death.
The government had incentivized the different public schools to play the Challenger in their classrooms. So they rolled their TV sets out, they had all the children sit down and get ready to watch it, and 20% of the American public watched the Challenger event happen live. And within 1 hour, 80% of Americans had seen the Challenger tragedy happen. So just like with 9/11, they have everyone see this traumatic event, and then we're all in unison that we're traumatized.
When it blew up, it was a form of trauma-based mind control that some people will never grow out of, and then the emotions kick in and you're unable to think logically about what's going on.
Of course this was planned. They made every school show this event live. They wanted these kids to grow up defending this tragedy.
Think about how many field trips come here, unfortunately. And they go in and watch that Heroes and Legends thing, and they come out thinking that this is the greatest possible hero that they could ever be. And that's just, they're actors. And we're building them up higher than your father, police, military, all these people that are actual heroes. These are actors working for a government agency. So
maybe instead of being a worthless blob of goo that came from nothing and then developing into apes that were oohing and aahing and then eating bananas like a bunch of idiots, maybe instead of that we actually are the center of the universe. Maybe we are special. In fact, maybe there is unbelievable evidence of creation. But the government has decided to hide that from you. Why? Why is there so much misinformation? Why is there a giant disinformation campaign going on right now when it comes to things like flat Earth? Why are people being hired by like Disney, Walt Disney, the mainstream media giants,